Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one ring that we rule them all. Hope if you remember your towel. Get your Ulu feathers and your middle guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Usually wins steel if it will get you to come. To the pit tank. To the pit tank. The Rocky Mountain pit tank.
Hi, I'm Guy.
Hi, I'm Troy.
Hi, I'm Alex.
And this is Geek Tank.
Your rabbit foot-sized podcast.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about weird game traditions, like things that we do that are strange and bizarre while playing games.
Even quirky, you might say.
One could even say that. What's so funny is that yesterday we're like, we should talk about quirks. And I'm like, yeah. And so today I'm like, weird. And Troy's like, no, quirks. It was like, yeah, have you forgotten the discussion from yesterday?
I know it's been more than 24. Oh no, I guess it's not been more than 24 hours. It's been almost 24 hours.
12 whole hours. And I have forgotten.
Right. Hey,
just
Brent.
so we are aware, it has been 12 whole hours and I have forgotten. So there's that.
So yeah, quirks and superstitions, which we did have a podcast a while back where we kind of talked on that, but we didn't have Alex with us. I believe Chelsea
and if
was in on
anybody's
that one.
quirky and superstitious, it's Alex. I mean, what?
I'm just extra-stitious.
Yeah.
It's slightly substitious.
Mm-hmm.
I just quoted Venture
no
Brothers.
word like that. That is awesome. I would
Nice.
love to be substitious. I am substitious.
I don't think it's going to start meaning what you think it's going to mean.
I know, right? All of a sudden, this starts going really weird.
All of a sudden, you're at the wrong party.
I'm at the wrong party.
Lots of role playing there, though.
Why is everybody
Missing
wearing
my
masks?
pants, and I don't know how this happened. And yep, that's what's going on. Okay.
Well, this runs the whole gambit from tabletop games, collectible card games, role-playing games, video games. So where do we start with this? We did not discuss that.
Well, our viewer or our commenter has said,
"Oh,
can't touch my dice." So I guess we're going tabletop first.
do. Can't touch dice.
Okay, so we're talking a little bit about then tabletop. So we'll start with the tabletop
So
side.
dicey quirks and
it is a little dicey.
Now people do get superstitious about their dice, especially if they roll bad. I know people who are like, "Oh, this dice is bad. That means I can't use it again. It must go into the dice gel." And there are even people who Etsy's that make like 3D printed little dice gels that you put your dice in when they're bad. Yep.
I do have sort of a banning dice thing that I do, but it's not quite dice jail.
Is it when I say bad words, you censor them?
When I say bad words.
Okay.
That's definitely a thing. No, but I mean, like I will, before a game, I'll roll all of my 20s. And if I'm in, if I'm the GM, I'm going to want them to be like high rolling or whatever, or maybe low rolling, depending on where we are in the game. So whichever ones roll highest or lowest get banned. Whichever ones roll against what I'm looking for will get pulled out, and then I will only roll with a die that runs. So
right now, on the other end of the spectrum, I don't want to waste the rolls that I could have gotten, so I just set them to the maximum, and after I roll them, I usually reset them to the maximum.
That way, all the atoms are settling.
You're telling the dice, this is what I expect from you.
Yes,
this is how I expect you to behave.
Clear expectations here, dice. Okay,
we're just letting you know.
And so Brent says that when his dice gets bad, they jail it with hammer time. My little brother, as an example to other dice that you have failed me for the last time, he would put them on a plate and throw them in the microwave.
Like and make all the other dice watch.
Yep.
This is what you get.
If you fail me, this
Yep.
is what happens.
So dice is actually one of those interesting things that there's enough science to it that that you don't need to be superstitious with it if you learn about them. You can check the balance of a die by filling a glass with water, see through, preferably, so you can see through it, and you fill it with enough salt that the die will be buoyant right in the middle. And then when it's like buoyant enough, then you sort of spin it, or is it floating? No, it floats on top. That's what it is. You put enough salt on it so it floats mostly on top, and you spin it while it's in the water, and then you do it a few times, and you see if the same number comes up a couple of times. And what it is the air bubbles in poorly made dice will cause the bottom part to be heavier, and it will basically weight your die, and it doesn't make it so weighted that you're guaranteed to get that, but probabilities are messed up for the 1 in 20, and so that's how you can check your dice to see if they're weighted properly.
Well,
So
dang it, I'm using metal dice now.
Game
Now you're
science?
using metal dice. I have no idea. Yeah, I actually have Game Science up over here. I think they went out of business a while ago, but you can still find their dice in other places.
That's sad.
Yeah, now Game Science, one of the things a lot of dice makers is they tumble their dice to get them smooth. But the problem is when you do that, you mess up the weight just enough that they're not Vegas legal. So if you want to be 100% precision, you need to go through what Game Science did with their dice. And I remember buying everybody in one of my role-playing groups a D20 in Game Science. And at that time, our friend Jeff was playing in some other game that I wasn't a part of. That was a D20 system. And he got like 2 or 3 D20s in 1 hour span, rolled 20 naturally in that span. And people were accusing him of cheating because they hadn't seen that many 20s come up. But it's just because of the probabilities of numbers, and because it actually has a 1 in 20 chance of rolling any of the numbers on it, you will roll more 20s and more 1s in that.
Yep.
But yeah, if you can find, if that kind of thing matters to you, Game Science dice is a great dice to get because they're very sharp edged. So it's crisp, but when it stops, it doesn't just keep rolling. So you have very little time for any weight to mess with it. But I've one of the coolest things I learned when I was playing Hero Skip competitively from another friend was, I'm like, because he's won championships, I'm like, well, what's your secret? He says, well, I never give in to the fallacy of mistrusting statistics. But because people will roll dice and the dice will fail them, and they'll change tactics thinking the tactics is wrong, but really they should stick with what's going to be the better statistics. When I was younger, Alex might remember this. I used to have a little box I'd keep my dice in, and I'd always have chocolate in with my dice, and I'd like sort of rub my dice on the chocolate, giving it like chocolate mojo. So, yeah, I think it's because I wanted to be cool like everybody else with their crazy little quirks.
Yeah,
right? Everybody had a quirk and you didn't, so you were feeling left out. So you stuck your dice in the chocolate.
So when I was younger, I was much more on the don't touch my dice like ever. Now, especially since I get I buy new sets of dice for new characters, especially if they're playing for a little bit. And so if someone's like, "Oh, check out that dice," I say, "Sure," but I mean, still ask permission. But when I was younger, though, it's like if dice failed me, I would jam them in my mouth, and be like, "Rah!" And then I would like spit them back out into a paper towel and dry them off. And people are like, "We're not touching your dice." So I'm like, "That's part of why I do this."
Right? It's kind of like licking your food so nobody will eat it.
Like,
don't touch Alex's dice. We know where they've been.
But by the transitive property, did you know where my mouth had been? Well, sometimes.
Right. Only when it's visible. What other dice things?
Well, that was another thing he just brought up, which is I buy a new set for every character as well. And actually, because I'm changing a character's sort of layout, I'm going to buy a new set of dice for her again. Because the dice that I got for her fit her old personality, but are not going to fit the more mature personality that we're going to have when she comes back into the game. So
the new dice have to have a little mustaches on them.
Have to have little mustaches, so we know.
I'm having trouble thinking of other dice like quirks or superstitions because I don't give into a lot of them. So let's roll. I guess
I actually just saw Brent post something. I have the answer to that. I'll be right back. Don't tell them what it is because I'll be right back.
Okay.
You
I
guys
don't,
can talk.
I don't even know what he's talking about. And I'm of course going to change subjects, so we won't be on dice anymore, and he'll come back with some kind of dice related thing.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think of other dice stuff. Nah, not really.
Yeah. Well, I can say once again, relating back to statistics, to get the actual accurate statistics, you have to have such a large portion of data, and when you
Yes.
play in a role-playing game, you don't roll nearly enough, so you'll think I'm rolling an insane number of critical failures, when really it's like, well, if you keep rolling, it will balance out.
Oh, there's this guy showing off his.
He's got his cheater
Yeah.
cheater 20.
Yep. It's actually the Jason Fox 20-sider. It won't focus on it, will it?
Yeah, it keeps on not focusing. And then,
There's some magic card, I can't remember what it is, where like your life total doesn't change. You need to pull that D20 out for your life counter once you play that card.
Right. You can still see it. It still works.
yeah, I still have I do have just dice, just cause sometimes you need extra dice. Sometimes people need dice, but nah, it's like I decided that you know, somewhere in my brain, presentation matters. It's the same part of my brain that's like, oh, I got this really cool magic deck that I really like. I need to like get it in the right sleeves and the right deck box and stuff like that. So yeah, I still have plenty of just sort of. I'll probably spill all over the place. Plenty of dice. But yeah, actually, I think I started doing dice. Like I had a bunch of different sets of dice in here and some singles I picked up. And I think it was Nazir. I picked out the right dice for him out of that set, which are really cool dice. I just sort of kept on going with it. So
I used to have a thing. I still kind of do this, but not every time. Is when I visit somewhere, I'll try to find a game shop and just buy some dice or one die there as my souvenir.
Right.
The problem is I was not organized enough. I should have been keeping like a journal so I could remember where I got which die from where.
right.
Because if they're not unique enough, then I don't remember.
Oh, so back when, back when we were starting to role play and stuff, and I was military brat moving everywhere and checking out different stores all the time. Yeah, like back in my day, you couldn't buy complete sets of dice. You basically had to buy, singles.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's actually kind of interesting because you think about that. That is actually kind of a thing that now it's a known set to come with a 4, an 8, a 12, 2 10s, and a 20
and a 6.
And a lot of times the 10s will have the 10s column 10 and a regular 10-sider.
Yep. For those of you who are not familiar with the standard, what do they call that? The standard D&D set?
I think they call it a percent. Yeah, it's a D&D set of dice, 7 dice, and it's called a percentile 10 die. I think
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying that those who are not familiar, I've got
a D4, D6, D8. I could have had a D8, D10,
had a D8,
D12. Or I'm sorry, 2 D10s if you have the percentile.
But yeah, if you've got percentile, that's exactly what we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. One comes with the 10s column,
and then if you use
say 28, and it makes sense.
And then if you use a greatsword, you got to go get another D6.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember like when they first started putting out those sets, like sometimes they would have the percentile 10, or those would be just 2 10s, but one of the 10s would be a different color, and then they'd also have like most of them back then came with 3 D6 because that's what you needed to roll up a character.
Right.
For your attributes, and then I'm not exactly sure when that stopped and such, but yeah, it's just.
And some of these actually are kind of cool. This is my Dungeons and Donuts from when Bob had.
There are so many different dice out there and such. That
crazy. They usually will have some symbol on them. This is a firefly die.
Yeah, they're special dice.
Firefly on it. Special dice are always cool.
All right.
Yeah, and my same little brother who used to microwave the bad dice, when he got married, they got special D6s made with the Triforce on them. That's pretty cool.
That's another thing I think is really cool is one set for everything for everyone. Yeah, my Star Trek dice are not in this set because this is my D&D set. But yeah, I've got Star Trek dice which have they're specialized as well, but they're for the Modifius games, and they have a symbol on there because in Modifius it's reversed, so 20s are bad and 1s are what you want. And so on the 1 they put the Star Trek Delta. Right.
And then the trying to think also more dice stuff. The the dice for different characters and such. Nazir was the character I played for 8.5 years. It's great. And a part of that also getting more dice is that I permanently retired those dice. Those dice came out of the bag and are like in a little box on one of my shelves here.
I'm going to read through this list of 15 superstition related to dice. So
Okay.
Don't roll the die before you need it because it uses up your good rolls.
Yep.
Always roll out the bad rolls before you need the die. So I guess you keep rolling until you get a crit 1 and then you say, okay, this next roll counts. Once you have a good roll, don't let the dice sit idle too long or it goes cold. Your first set of dice is sacred. I guess that falls on superstition. And don't ever mix them with other dice. Always lay your dice with the lowest number facing up. Always lay your dice with the highest number facing up. Never allow anyone to touch your dice. Sharing is not caring. Sharing lets the monstrous bad luck demon make your rolls poor. Specific dice, this I've seen people do. Specific dice are used for specific situations. Mm-hmm. There's an attack roll D20. There's a D20 for saving throws. There's a different D20 for skill checks. So there's a D20 to seduce redheaded, one-eyed, bearded dwarven women named Irene.
So that's oddly specific.
It is.
/oddly specific.
A new die must be tested. So if you buy a new die, you're going to test it before you actually use it.
Or if you're Alex, a new die must be tasted.
No, not anymore. I don't do that anymore. I only did it when they were bad.
Then they taste bad. Okay, that was funny in my head.
If the status of the dice... Yeah, I don't even remember my first set of dice because that kind of aspect of stuff, to me, they were part of the game, part of the game components. And that's all they were. They were no different than the sheet of paper or the pencil or the sand timer. I remember starting out, dice were just dice. And it wasn't until probably my teenage years where I started to go, I want my own dice.
Mm-hmm. Right? My stupid brother is always giving me dice and my own. Yep. I know that one.
Mm-hmm. If the status of the die's luck is in question, keep it separated from the rest of the dice so it doesn't make the other dice have bad luck.
No contamination.
On the other hand, some believe mixing a single unlucky die with several lucky dice will make it roll better. There are, of course, rituals to prime or cleanse the die before use.
Seen people do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's the one you mentioned with your brother. Teach a particular bad die a lesson by punishing it. And yep, if it's clearly cursed for all eternity, it must be destroyed, and all other dice must bear witness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I haven't heard this one before. If you find that one die is lucky, particularly lucky, you should name it, but not after a significant other, and only use it for very important rows. And it should also be kept in its own special holder, and you should talk to it when you take it out and put it away. That is pretty serious superstition there.
And you should pet it, and you should call it a nice dice.
Now, there's a fun book called Gamesmanship, and it's about walking that line of unsportsmanship and cheating. Not fully cheating, but mind games and the things you do to mess with the other person. I could see adopting some of these to mess with somebody, like not really caring about it, but talking to my D20 before rolling it if it was like related to a tournament or something. And
Yeah.
Right. Because so people
And
think,
I
what are you
think that
doing?
yeah, I think that I mean I do this sometimes too. Like I won't like I'm not like who's a good sword die, but I'll sometimes be like, okay, baby, hold together, and he'll throw it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Papa needs a new pair of shoes.
yep. It's like, come on, we need this one.
All right.
That's weird, but I could see it. I could see it used as sort of a, I don't know, not. I guess attack isn't the right word, but that kind of thing where it's like, haha, I'm messing with your head.
Yeah. I mean, like one thing I think as an example they use, and I believe uh, Book of Five Rings, Masashi
Uh-huh.
did this for one of his fights. In the example they give in the book was if you're going to play tennis with a friend and you have like some money on the bet or something, intentionally show up like 30 minutes late.
Oh, okay. Musashi did that a ton. Musashi was
Okay.
like the master of getting into people's heads. I could talk about Musashi all day. We should not take over
Okay.
this show to be Musashi.
We shouldn't.
Yeah.
We shouldn't tempt Alex.
I was just referring to that because I could see the same concept of getting into people's head by doing stuff like this with your dice.
Yeah.
Let's move on to, because there's really not anything else that's jumping to mind related to role playing game quirks or
Yeah, I
superstition.
mean, well, it's like
Oh, wait a
I don't know
minute.
if, like,
we did talk a little bit at one point in time. I know that Alex and I have talked about prepping characters, like
yeah,
what's
like how we
important
get
and what
into
isn't.
character.
Okay.
Yeah. Like for me, it's critical to have had the portrait made. That is so important to me. I cannot actually operate a character until I've drawn the portrait. But I couldn't care less about background or history or whatever. We've been working on Ivy's history while playing her, and we've already gotten her like 4 levels before we even knew really what her background was. Because I didn't care. That wasn't important. But I had a portrait within minutes rolling her up.
Mm-hmm.
That's important.
Yeah, that's your quirk. You have to have the visual.
Yep.
And I need background. And I don't necessarily need a lot of background, but I need background.
Right.
And then with the character I'm playing, there's stuff that I didn't know about them, but that makes sense. And since we've been like writing about them, it's like more stuff has been coming off the page, and also like working with Troy on why would this be important for this character? Because I know it's important, but I'm not sure why. And so I need to have background so that way I can know how they would react, or start to have an idea how they would react in situations. So
Yeah, it's definitely a quirk for me that I need to at least know or come up with and have the agency for my character that I'm playing to know their motivation. Why are they here? Why am I hanging out with these people and going to go do this thing that could get me killed?
Which is even funnier because right now that is literally what your character is thinking in the middle of this campaign.
Yeah. But it's but I know some people tend to be more about just the straight up numbers and min-maxing. Like I want to make sure I'm dealing the most damage that I can, that I have the correct synergy with all of this stuff. And they could care less if they're doing it, if their character is doing it for anything more than the money and the experience points.
Which makes me kind of wonder, why are you playing something as complex as a role-playing game,
Mm-hmm. Well, because they enjoy diving into the mechanics of the synergies of the rules, is what I imagine. They're Johnny, not Johnny.
Spike.
Yeah, John. They're a mix of the Johnny and the Spike. There's the Spike because the winning is what matters, not how you get to the win. And so, if the best direct line to winning is min-maxing your character, that's what they're going to do.
Right.
Doesn't matter if your dad was a bread maker, unless if that means you get a +1 to your dexterity because you tossed dough as a kid or something.
Yeah. Dough. Oh, what?
Dough. So yeah, that's definitely quirks in that aspect for characters. As what I thought you were going to say, and what I was leading to, was it occurred to me that it is definitely a quirk of yours that you will only be comfortable playing female characters.
Yep.
and
it's definitely a thing. In the beginning, when I started as a teenager, obviously it was because female characters are cuter and yada yada yada. As I have grown older now, it's because I've grown into like the feminism side of my political stance. I feel very strong on that particular aspect. That's my political, whatever you want to call it, the hill I wish to die on. And so the characters represent that now in that sort of way. But it also sort of is like, I really respected my mom and what my mom did.
Your mom.
And so I really was, it's like mimicking her in a way for all these characters, different versions of it. Although Ivy is nowhere near that anymore. But that's okay. You know, we're kind of working this situation here. Ivy's not anywhere near mom. And then, well, man, I don't know. I never knew my mom when she was in her 20s. It's entirely plausible she was just as goofy as Ivy, for all we know. You know, nobody really knows. Well, I mean, people know, but I don't. Wasn't around, so
I've as far as I can remember, there's only one time I ever played a female character in a role-playing game, and that was a pre-generated character at a convention. That was the only character left, and the DM was very specific that you can't change your gender. You got to play the female character.
Weird.
And I'm like, okay. And it really, in the plot, I don't remember it mattering.
Yeah.
And I think part of it for me was I know that I think differently than my experiences in life have been different than the experiences of most females. And I'm not comfortable thinking I can properly
express it,
do justice to playing a female character correctly, that I'm going to accidentally slip into some tropes of views, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to play a tropey character that would disrespect the gender.
That's fair.
And it's but part of the challenge that I've grown into over several years, and it just gets stronger every time, is I love taking the character and taking an aspect that I don't know about, to explore it and find the empathy in it, and to try to really connect with it in some way. So like with my current character having the disability of being on the autism spectrum.
Right.
So, which I can't say I'm not entirely on myself, but I'm on just enough probably that it sits far enough to the end that it doesn't qualify nearly with the rest of the spectrum. So it's kind of like the opposite thing with where you want to show justice and honor and play the strong female character type thing. Now, when it comes to video games, didn't bother me.
Whoa.
No, sorry, let me back up. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, before we head over to the video game superstitions.
Because once we're going to video games.
No. Yeah, we got. Well, Alex didn't get a chance because he definitely should talk about this.
But no, just so I think that characters, especially characters whose, I guess for lack of a better term, their voices are strong in us. I think they have they have something to teach us by, you know, a little bit sideways, a little bit of storytelling, a little bit of like, yes, it's all aspects of ourselves, but what does this need to be brought forth? And so and like I said, like especially the very strong ones, like Nazir in the Earth Dawn game, like this character I'm playing now, like another character I played in it was in that we only played, it was like post-apocalyptic Denver game, and that one we didn't get to play long enough for me to actually kind of figure out what that character had to tell me. But hopefully go back to it. But it's also like personally, like I rarely cross play, so it was pretty funny that like at the beginning part of this game I was cross playing, but my character was also cross playing, so it was presenting male.
The Victoria.
Nice. Yeah,
it's a girl dressed as a woman pretending to be a girl.
Right.
I'm sorry, it's a girl dressed as a man pretending to be a Victoria. That was
Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews, yeah, Mary Poppins.
Andrews. Yep.
But yeah, so, and then I know Guy is. I'm not putting you on the spot to like say you have to share with everybody, Guy. I was just going to say that very recently, Guy came to a epiphany about his character that we've been
And
playing.
by recently, he means last night.
Yes, yesterday.
That counts as recently.
That's that.
Like, where I was suddenly realizing,
That is
wait,
definitely recently.
I am expressing my internal ADD with my character. Like, she is like all of the things that are going on with my attention deficit. She squirrels all the time as we're talking, and, you're in the middle of a fight and they're fighting and everything. She's like, I wonder if I could eat that creature over there. I might be able to. I'm hungry, It's like, why did you come up with that? We're in the middle of a fight. Well, but I'm hungry.
Yeah, I remember someone in one of the D&D groups on Facebook I'm part of. They were like, I have someone who wants to play a character with only a wisdom 5. And of course, everybody's like, well, it can't be that low. But if you're going to play a low wisdom, how do you, they want to know, how do I help them role play it? I'm like, that's ADD. If your perception is a 5, it's because you're looking at one thing and everything else is a blur around you.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
Interesting thing. But yeah, that is definitely,
I think the biggest not entirely on topic, but I think the biggest epiphany I had was in the Earth Dawn game as far as growing as a human. Because as a teenager, my hero, quote unquote heroes, were like Batman, the Punisher, Mac Bolan. I had a very revenge driven mind and if you're a bad guy, like a real bad guy, you deserve to die, was the justice in my mind. And as I matured, because that's what it is, maturing, I began to realize there's a whole lot of gray. And just because someone has done something that you might perceive as totally unforgivable and punishable by death, there's stuff going on in there that wasn't fully a conscious choice that put them where they are. And playing Truslos, I decided when I came out with him, he was going to be 100% a pacifist. And so he, when he killed people, in the game, first time he did a spell and killed somebody, it was really traumatizing to him because he had never killed anybody before then. And so then he had to very selectively pick who he was going to kill. And a lot of times in fights, he would hold back and pull his punches and always tried to walk the path of helping people, which made it that much cooler that his unknown alternate personality was the total opposite of that.
Yeah. Yeah. In that game, we had the GM had said everybody's got like some kind of destiny or ability or something, and it would be revealed through gameplay. So that was really cool discovering that too. And actually, I think that Troy is doing something similar with the game that we're in right now. Everyone's got a thing.
Everybody's got a thing.
So things have not necessarily been revealed to us yet. And for Al Nasir, the lesson I learned from him, the biggest lesson I learned from him was I don't have to be the best to have value, to be worthy of respect and attention and love. Because I played a scout, which are good at being scouts, like a ranger type of thing, but they're not the like if I wanted to be a combat monster, I would have played a more combat oriented class. I want to be this, I would have done that, and like I didn't. And it was really
real
cool.
Quick side note, just in case when something weird happens, I've just seen the 3rd Excel Energy truck drive by.
Oh, okay. Sponsor time.
Right
sponsor
there.
time.
Yep, sponsor time.
Yeah, he stopped right there outside my house. So if I disappear,
sponsors,
we'll know what happened.
Let's go ahead and do sponsors real quick. So Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, and Your Mom.
And if you happen to be seeing this and want to become a sponsor with us, it's just about becoming a Patreon, and we will toss your name up there and promote whatever it is you're selling, assuming it fits in with our morals and ethics and it's not something really horrible. So we'll discuss that.
We're not going to sponsor the puppy mill. Sorry.
Right.
No,
not going to happen. And also, we'll take this opportunity, and we can say it again at the end of the show. Starting next week, or is it the week after? Week after, because next week is still the 30th of May. In 2 weeks, on June 6th, we will be moving to 9 p.m. at night on our shows.
Yep.
And so be aware of that.
Some of us are going to be doing daily work.
Being responsible adults.
Being responsible. Well,
not me.
Being responsible. Maybe not adults, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's always questionable.
Or does anybody else want to say anything about the role playing aspect of that? Because I think this leads well into video games.
I think so too. Video
Um,
games.
so just like with your playing female characters with video games, I have no problem at all playing female characters in that, especially like Tomb Raider. You don't have an option; you can only play a
Right.
female in that.
But I have a very specific, different reason for only
Mhm.
playing female characters in video games, and that is because early on in video games, we literally had like Samus, and that was pretty much it. And
We had Miss
even
Pac-Man.
with Samus in the very early parts of the game, the entire intention was to like make Samus naked. Like that was her mission statement. And I
Yeah,
was
when
like,
when you win the game,
Yeah.
that was the win condition.
the win condition was that she took off all of her clothes, and it was like, really?
She had clothes
So-
on, but yeah, it took off the power armor.
We know that the only reason that she still had clothes on was because it was Nintendo.
Right.
Well, it's not like
I'm naked right now. Under
It's
my
not
clothes.
like female representation in video games has gotten much better. It's
No, but I won't play a game if you can't play a female.
Mhm.
And that's because I find that to be first of all, a number of female friends that I have had over the years have bemoaned the fact that they're not represented in these games. You know, they'll get into a game and they have to play always the big burly guy. And it's like, that's, you know, they're like, that's not what I do. I'm not a big burly guy. I'm a girl, you know, sort of thing. And there's a lot of,
You did play StarCraft,
yeah.
so and you can't play just exclusively girls in that.
Yeah.
In fact, I
Yeah.
think there are very few girls in that.
Yeah, but it's-
But-
Well, no,
Fair
but StarCraft
representation
did have a
matters.
few.
It does. It really
yeah, I
matters.
mean, especially in Brood War. But
I mean, speaking of Tomb Raider and Lara Croft, when they took her the direction where she's at now, there were a lot of guys who were complaining because they wanted the over-sexualized version of Lara Croft.
right,
And they made her-
actually finally she's getting to the point where I'm like, hey,
She's more
it's pretty cool now.
realistic now. So yeah,
She's not super top heavy. And it's
I saw a cosplay as somebody did of Tomb Raider 1, and they had the pointy
The
breast.
pointed-
It was hilarious.
I've got to admit that's pretty clever and cute.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So that's at least fair.
Now, in tabletop games, I would often pick female characters in that because one, it's just token and it has no bearing on the game, or it's a card. But that's because I was trying to break the pattern of people not picking the female characters in games, or I would choose the color pink because I was trying to break that trope.
Mhm. Yeah.
I failed, but
Yeah. You got to be Mr. Pink.
straight game, Mr. Pink.
Yeah.
But I know that with video games you have that aspect where you want to only do the female characters. I feel like there was a video game we were talking about yesterday, and I can't remember now.
Hmm.
Oh well, it's gone. I'm not
Okay.
going to linger on it.
No, it's like so. I was thinking about gaming quirks and video games.
Yes.
So way back in the old days when we had arcades,
Pong.
it was the ultimate pay to
Pong.
play experience.
Yes.
We as doing fighting games and stuff, I always felt and still do feel more comfortable on the right hand side.
That's interesting.
And I'm not sure why. I mean, y'all have seen me play these games. I get low, my right leg goes on the side of basically out to the side of the machine. I got my elbow out and stuff. And
Now, does your that's stand-up arcades. Is that also true for console games on a couch?
I do prefer to be on the right hand side if we're playing like
Okay.
back in the old days of Greenwood and doing
Yeah,
like
because it occurs to me that would always mean that your elbow is clashing with your opponent because you're right-handed. Yes.
no, on the right hand side.
Oh, the right-hand side. So your elbow is not clashing. So maybe
My
that's
right
fine.
elbow is out the side of the machine.
Yeah, maybe that's why. Maybe
Maybe that's why. Maybe because
Yeah.
then you don't have any.
Yeah.
Although-
I think of this because my sister is left-handed.
Yeah.
Right. And so it over the years we've gotten to the point where we always sit in the same order
Mhm.
at the table because I always sit on the right side and she always sits on the left side, so we don't clash.
Yes, so your
elbows.
arms aren't.
Yeah,
But it's
and-
like something that we don't even think about anymore. I mean, 'cause
Yeah.
you know, when you grow up with somebody,
It also
Yeah, we
could
need
be
to
your natural fighting stance is leading with your left, and so your left is to your opponent.
maybe. Yeah, I mean, I just and I'm pretty dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like,
What bothers me is if my character's on an opposite side of where I'm sitting.
that's
At least to start off.
yeah.
I don't mind. Obviously in games you can switch places, but starting off for some reason I'd like to sit on the side that my character's represented for starting on. That's definitely a quirk because it's a like, it's not a must.
Mhm.
I can
Right.
adapt to it, but if it's easy for me to just move and switch places or trade controllers so we're
Mhm.
on the correct side. But
That
yeah,
makes
that's definitely a quirk there with fighting in games. Not so much a quirk, but a house rule that I adapted from the nerd commune, Greenwood, was the winner passes the controller instead of the loser. So winning the game doesn't. I know it probably started because in the arcades, when you win, you get to keep playing, and the other person has to put in another quarter because they've lost.
Mhm.
right.
So it sort of fed into the most other people's house rules of I won, so I get to keep playing. You have to switch now with this other person who wants to play. The problem with
Tracks.
that is the winner gets way more practice than losers get. And it's better to let the winner pass because then the loser is going to keep playing until they win, which means they'll hopefully get
Well,
better.
that's only if you're mature enough to know that you're awesome and that you want other people around you to be better.
Yes.
If your entire headspace is on pushing people down to make yourself feel better about how you are,
Mm-hmm.
then there you go.
Yeah.
Calling all y'all out. Fight me.
I'll do that in a lot of games, as long as money's not on the line, like a tournament. Is I want to help you make the best decision as a player, because that puts me at my biggest challenge.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So if you forgot to do something, which you like, if you're about to forget to pay your upkeep on a creature and it's going to go away because you're just not paying attention, I would rather say, "Hey, you need to pay the upkeep on that creature," because that's a silly mistake to make, and
Right,
I
that
don't
is
want
kind
to.
of a
I don't
silly
want to
mistake.
win because you're not paying attention.
Right. But like I said, like in the arcade at a tournament, it's different expectations.
It's totally different. Yeah.
And therefore it requires a different response.
Go in the other direction.
What other?
Weird.
I guess it's kind of a ritual for people because I guess it really did nothing. Was blowing into the cartridges before putting them in the Atari cartridges before putting the Atari cartridges in.
And I never did it with my Atari consoles. It was always NES.
NES.
Yeah, Nintendo.
I guess that doesn't really matter cleaning out the dust from it like that. It doesn't. I thought I heard somewhere.
Maybe throwing some spit on it made the
Yeah.
connection better. Yeah, actually, I had a friend who they and this probably works better. He wouldn't blow into the cartridges. He'd have like an eraser, and he would erase. He would run the eraser on the contacts, and then he'd shake and blow the eraser stuff out.
This was pre canned air.
Canned air.
Yeah,
This
this is back
the
in
commentary
the 80s.
I'm making is canned air. So that's yeah. I'm also, by the way, unstable. So I just like.
Oh yeah.
Shows your feed.
Your connection is unstable. If you're on Wi-Fi, try plugging in your route into your router.
Oh, I think Excel's messing with you now.
Yeah, I was actually kind of thinking something's going on out there. Not sure what, but something's definitely
other video game superstitions. Like I don't have a superstition per se on this, but it's like I really hate when my hands get sweaty on the controller.
Hand salsa.
Yeah, hand salsa. So I would be like, okay, well, I got to wash my hands, got to get like a paper towel or a wipe or something. All right, ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
But that feeds into just being courteous too, especially if you're passing controllers.
It's really hot. Don't ask where it's been. My hands are wet because I just washed them.
Yeah.
No other reason.
No reason. Why are the buttons sticky?
Uh-oh.
Because of the salsa.
Things are going bad.
Yep. Yeah, I because I don't have many quirks or superstitions about video games, I'm finding it tricky to think about ones. I know that a lot of consoles now are made where they could either be flat or as a tower. I imagine for some people, they have they might fill
requirements on that. Yeah.
a superstition related to that. Like if the console's one way and not the other, I'm going to do poorly at the game. I could.
I'm sure somebody's got that. I usually think people do the orientation, the console vertical or horizontal, just because of their
entertainment setup.
Yeah, their storage challenges basically.
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe, well, yeah, but if you don't have storage challenges, I could see that being a, oh well, I'm gonna.
Which way looks coolest?
Yeah, which way? Yeah, or which way will give me the most advantage? Or you know what I mean? Like I can see that.
I don't know if it's true, but I always thought the tower mode would give it better ventilation to stay cooler. But it doesn't fit my storage needs, so I always kept it flat type thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually in our current entertainment center, I only have a couple consoles in there, but I have a USB fan for each of them, so when the console's powered up, it powers a fan to help keep them cool.
Nice.
Yeah, that's worked out really well. So
strangely, really.
So are these special fans or just like a little mini fan?
The USB desk fan.
Huh.
Yeah, and I mean they die every few years, but I'd rather. And the reason why I started doing it is because I had a first generation PS3, which was not as bad as first generation Xboxes or what was it, the 360, but it would still overheat and such. And so once mine overheated and I couldn't get it repaired, I was like, okay, well, this is an overheating problem. It's a known issue. Let's try to mitigate that.
Cool. Just stick it in a cooler with ice.
No.
Blah.
Do not take that advice, dear listeners.
No, the Geek Tank does not endorse Troy's bad advice.
Right. I'm just saying.
Okay, so we did some video games and then tabletop. I guess we have to go to card games.
Yeah, Magic.
Magic was one that's what started this whole thing, was us discussing Magic.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, what are the weird superstitions we have for Magic?
Quirks, and this is falls way more into the aesthetic thing, and I know a lot of us in our group are very aesthetic, is finding the right sleeve art for the right deck.
Oh yeah,
that matches it. I don't know if it's so much a quirk. I mean, I guess it could be considered a quirk. Yeah, I think it's really cool when you can find, because for me, it's not about having the deck and the sleeves match the, because a lot of times Magic will make this Planeswalker's artwork on this sleeve and box. So if I was playing a deck built around that Planeswalker, that would make sense, I guess. But I find it more fun to find the off-brand sleeves with the different artwork.
Right. Yeah, I don't normally like. I like trying to find different colors for the sleeves and the deck boxes and stuff. It's pretty rare that I look for picture sleeves, but like for instance, I pulled this box. This is my going to like pre-releases and stuff like that. Just because it's fun. It's fun. It's silly. It's a little bit fun. We're here to have fun. Let's go.
I agree.
But yeah, no, I do that, and like I do like trying to find like the certain card arts, if it would work better with the deck and like what I'm trying to do with it, or stuff like that. I like to do a lot of, and a lot of people really like to do that too in deck construction, the blinging out their deck in all foils or cool altered arts and stuff like that. But I also think it's just like superstitions, like how many times do you shuffle your deck?
That's an interesting one. Yeah, because how many times do you shuffle your deck, Alex?
I shuffle mine 7 times. But I do 3 mass shuffles, and then I do I'll just demonstrate. Let's see. Where are you? Where are you, buddy? We'll do it with this one. It's blue, and we'll show up. So I do the whole, that shuffle. I do that 3 times, and I'm going to do it 3 times because here I am. And then I do this once, and then I do this 3 more times. And then I set the deck down to be cut. But then also thinking about the whole gamesmanship stuff, like back in the day, sometimes, people would be like, you shuffle your deck, and then they're like, they just tap it. Or they'll do the one card. You don't want that card anyway. Or they'll do there's different ways of cutting decks.
Mm-hmm. There's these sleeves that I only have like 60 of, I think. I'm not even sure if I have a full 60 of, and I had a really hard time finding them since, and I don't want to pay ridiculous prices for them. But at one time vampires are my creatures I like to make decks out of, and I just love the artwork on this sleeve. Share screen, that one, and that, and I just haven't been able to find that.
Yeah, those
again.
are great.
Because most of them will just have like really busty women on them. I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for.
Nope. We have better things to do with our lives.
But one of our viewers actually sent me the ones that I have, like way back when we were chatting offline, not on Geek Tank, and we were talking about magic and such. And I sent her a squirrel token because squirrels are her thing. And I had these extra squirrel and this was like a not official squirrel token. This was the what was it, Comic City, I think it was, or it's some big name other company. And so we did a trade, but not an agreed upon trade, just here, have this. Oh, well, in that case you have this.
Cool.
Right.
Yep.
You need this then, which is cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
So I was looking up here, somebody oh no, I thought this was going to be a list, but it's not. Sorry, I was looking up a list of quirks for Magic the Gathering because I was kind of wondering. When I used to buy booster packs back in the day, they would tend to put like at least 3 different artworks on the covers of the booster packs. I wanted to buy the same art booster packs, so when I go through and pick them out, I would choose which pack I wanted by the art that I like best.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Which since they're supposed to be random,
right?
It wasn't supposed to matter.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's been proven that at least with the, I guess what they would now call booster packs, the booster draft packs, that they are semi-random. So since there's lots of unscrupulous people out there, they will get booster boxes, open up a couple of packs, and because of the aggregated data that they've been putting toward on the internet, they can go, okay, well, we're going to put out all the cards, we're going to open up this pack, and when we open this pack, we look at the rare, we know exactly what the rares are going to be in every single one of these other packs.
Well, and I think there's a certain amount of what they can and cannot actually do. Like there's only so much they can sort randomly, I think.
No, they're semi-random because they want to have the optimum draft experience. So
that makes some sense. I guess
in any particular box, if people crack a box and share it with their friends to do a booster draft, they want to make sure that people are having fun and it's not just, because if it was truly random, every single rare could be just garbage,
right?
Or like not a game-ending rare, or rares that people aren't really excited about, or just even be just the same rare. Everybody suddenly has one of the same card. 2 rares, and it's like, okay, well, where's the fun in that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That makes sense.
Yep. And people would, of course, use that knowledge. When foils came out, I remember people would actually weigh packs, because packs with foils weighed just enough that if you had a proper scale, you could tell. And so people would use that to make sure they got all the foiled cards. So it's
more than
unscrupulous.
Yeah.
Some people, they just use whatever sleeves are around or good quality ones. It's just not everybody has got the same quirks as everybody else.
Oh man, I wish I would have sleeved cards when I first started playing.
I know, right?
That's what I was thinking too. I keep thinking about that a lot. Like, I still have some of my very early ones, and I sit there and go, well.
Or our friend who spilled orange juice all over his cards.
Yep. Yeah. The OJ deck, as we
the OJ deck. Back before it was a problem, before it was problematic.
Right.
Because it was supposed to be orange juice.
Yep.
This is a bit of a quirk that I have that's again relates to aesthetics. I really, when I can, if I'm going to have a token, I like to actually have a 3-dimensional miniature or figure of that. It's like
I can agree with that.
So like recently I made a really crappy wizard deck that sucks so far, but I'm still having fun trying to play it. But one of the cards in it makes wizard tokens when you cast instances of sorceries, and I have official Magic the Gathering miniatures from when they collaborated with Heroescape. And so I've got a little Jace one, a little Lilian one, and that. So I like using those as the tokens. And back when I played Slivers, I had these cool little sliver-looking creatures from some other game that nobody's ever heard of that I loved putting them out.
Fair.
And also, I don't remember if I came up with this, but I probably got it from somebody else. Was when playing a creature, since it has summoning sickness, I would turn it upside down because I found it does two things. One, I don't mistake that it doesn't have summoning sickness, and also since it just hit the field, it makes it easier for my opponent to read it because it's orientated to them.
Yeah, we started doing that way back in the day too.
I think we adapted it from him.
I don't know.
I think Troy got it from us.
I might have gotten it from you guys. I don't know.
Anything.
I know some people like to put the summoning sick creatures behind their land, and then on the next turn move them forward up above the land. Is how they keep track of that. Hey, Donald, in the chat. 3 minutes, roughly.
3 minutes left.
What do we want to hit on here?
We should probably remind about our switch over to Knights.
One more time. We're going to, just so you guys are all aware and keeping in mind, because of course we got to kind of do this, we are going to be switching over to nighttime at some point here.
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks. We're going to be switching over so that we'll be doing nighttime shows, and that'll be cool.
Yep.
So,
the first Monday of June.
First
June
Monday of
6th.
June.
Yeah, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Ah!
9 p.m. Rocky Mountain Standard Time.
Rocky Mountain Geek Tank Standard
Rocky Mountain
Time.
Geek Tank Standard Time. And next show, I know we're not gonna. I really wanted to get Chelsea into this topic, but I think we should, unless something else new comes up, we should talk about language. About bad language or adult language, and how
language,
and how language, words mean things, and how language changes. Because I was noticing that the younger age millennials, like in Chelsea's age, use the F-bomb way more than seems necessary. Like, because to me, the word should be used to make a point. And for some people, it's a lot of people that when I'm out in public listening, it seems like just a flavor word kind of thrown in for them.
Yeah, present company included, I think.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm millennial now.
Yeah. Well,
check you being all millennial.
You're a little more on the not quite there, because you tend to use it when you're emotion, not negatively, but when you get more energetic in the conversation.
No, I mean, I'm a sailor's son, so especially with when Pulp Fiction hit, I'm like, all right. The entire vocab comes out.
Pulp Fiction definitely did something to me, because I definitely started cursing a lot more after Pulp Fiction.
I just felt it was more acceptable for me to curse a ton after Pulp Fiction.
You're like, hey, everybody
else. Door, Oscar nominations. It's in the culture now.
I think let's aim for that, unless something happens between now and next Monday that we want to talk about instead.
All right.
Cool.
We're gonna have a bleeper.
No, maybe we should save that for our first Monday night 9 p.m. one, because then we'll be Geek Tank at night.
Ooh, after dark.
After dark. We could just stick a little not safe for work blurb like up on there for our background or something.
Nice.
Now we got 2 more viewers right at the end of our show.
Right? Sweet.
So
yeah.
Facebook
Nobi Ryu is Brent. That's just his Twitch.
Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch will, if you coming in at the end of this, you can go back and rewatch this. It's recorded now. So there, take that.
So there. I like they take that part.
Yeah.
Right.
Some people say like and subscribe. I say take that.
Right? Exactly. We have our own way of doing this.
Fight me.
And that's why we don't have 1,000 subscribers and can't monetize, because Troy keeps screwing everything up.
It's true. It is true. But I do think, though, that we have run out of time for today.
Yep.
So we'll have to see you next week. And thank you for joining us, you guys.
Yep.
Appreciate it. And as always, we will see you next week. And that's all the time we have for today. I've been Guy.
I've been Troy.
And I've been Alex.
And this his Geek Tank.